Howdy folks, it's Aaron Christensen with Horror 101 with Dr. AC, and welcome back to Scare-A-Thon 2024, benefiting the Women's Reproductive Rights Assistance Project. Tonight we're going to be talking about one of the most celebrated made-for-TV horror films, 1981's Dark Night of the Scarecrow, which is available now on 4K UHD, along with its double feature, Dark Night of the Scarecrow 2, aka Straw Eyes, from 2021. I have some semi-personal connections with this film in that it was selected to be one of the films in our book Hidden Horror. Dave Fuentes wrote a fantastic essay about this film, kind of celebrating it and hoping to raise its profile. I also have spent time with J.D. Feigelson, the screenwriter of Dark Night of the Scarecrow, at various conventions. J.D. Feigelson would go on to write and direct the sequel, which came out in 2021. But I didn't see this film until much later. I knew about it from its VHS release, but J.D. Feigelson was key to getting it introduced to a new generation and ultimately got a DVD release through VCI Entertainment. They are also the ones releasing this 4K UHD. And J.D. was someone who was a familiar face throughout the late 2000s into the 2010s, consistently promoting Dark Night of the Scarecrow. And I remember driving around one night with him and some other convention goers looking for a favorite barbecue place that suddenly was no longer there. It had burned down since the last time he was there. And so the joke became, don't let J.D. Feigelson love your restaurant because it will eventually get burned down. But back to the movie, it was directed by Frank Felitta, who was the author of such books as The Entity and Audrey Rose, both of which were turned into successful films. And the screenplay, of course, by J.D. Feigelson. And it had a great cast, headlined by Charles Durning, also starring Lane Smith, Claude Earl Jones, no relation to James Earl Jones, Jocelyn Brando, Marlon Brando's sister, and Larry Drake in the role of Bubba. Bubba has a friendship with a young lady called Mary Lee, played by Tanya Crow. And one day Mary Lee is attacked by a dog, and Bubba saves her from the dog, but when he brings her back to her mother's house, they think that their bloodied and torn up daughter, they assume that Bubba has done this to her, even though Bubba proclaims his innocence quite loudly. And the local postal carrier, Otis Hazelrig, played by Charles Durning, rounds up some of his buddies, track down Bubba, and delivers some vigilante justice. Bubba is finally discovered at his mother's house, inside of a scarecrow, and the men shoot him down in cold blood and then learn that he was actually innocent. They are taken to trial, but the judge lets them off easy because they are pillars of the community, and Bubba's grieving mother proclaims that there are other justices beyond the law. Soon our little vigilantes are being picked off one by one, mysteriously, things that look like accidents, but we know different. And it's all done with a great level of atmosphere and suspense and some pretty good scares. The film garnered quite a cult following, and so when it was released to DVD in 2011, it was greeted with a lot of warmth, and JD became a minor celebrity on the convention circuit. And this new release has a commentary track by Heath Holland, Robert Kelly, and Amanda Reyes. It's called a triple fan commentary. And there's also the original commentary with J.D. Feigelson and Frank DeFelitta. The film still holds up quite well 40 years later. And after years and years of talking about it, J.D. finally realized his dream of bringing a sequel to fruition. Now, I'll be honest, I can't say that the sequel has as much going for it. It takes place in the same small town, and it still plays upon the legacy of Bubba coming back from beyond the grave to wreak vengeance. And it follows a mother and her son who have left the big city. They have come to this small town, maybe running from something, maybe avoiding something. We don't know. That's part of the mystery. And because the young boy is not very happy about being in this new town, there is a disconnect from his mother. He starts to create an alliance with a woman who is watching him while his mother's working. And turns out that this woman is actually using him to control Bubba from beyond the grave and have him carry out some justice a la Igor and the monster from Son of Frankenstein. It's shot proficiently enough. It doesn't have the same level of atmosphere, and the characters aren't quite as accessible. And I wish that JD had perhaps found another idea for his sequel, or perhaps come up with a different concept to make another movie, another original movie entirely. He does provide commentary for the sequel. Unfortunately, it's a little bit like kind of explaining what's happening on screen or explaining why things are happening on screen. in case we didn't get it. So I can't say it's a very illuminating commentary. However, there is a really nice 30-minute featurette called Bubba Didn't Do It, directed by Ballyhoo's Daniel Griffith, and it talks about the original film and its legacy and chats with JD and Frank DeFelitta and a couple of other key players, and that's a really well done piece. There's also a Q&A recorded from a cast and crew reunion at the 2011 Fright Fest with JD Feigelson, Tanya Crow, and Larry Drake. I can't remember if I've said Larry Drake. He would go on to play Durant in Darkman. He also played Benny on LA Law to much acclaim. And this 4K UHD release, it's probably the best the film has ever looked, maybe the best it ever will look. So if you're a fan and you're curious about the sequel, this might be the time to pick up the Dark Knights of the Scarecrows double feature, available now from VCI Entertainment. And again, this is Scare-A-Thon 2024, benefiting the Women's Reproductive Rights Assistance Project. If you follow this link right up here, that will take you to the video that has all the information about the fundraiser, or you can just drop down into the video description here, and that will bring you to the link to the fundraiser itself. You can make a donation there. And if you've been enjoying Scare-A-Thon 2024, now would be a great time to make a donation and show your support for WRRAP. Hope everybody's having a fantastic weekend. We'll talk to you soon.